Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is dress. Let's take a look at some of the definitions or ways that we use this verb. The first way you might hear dress used is to mean to put on clothes or to wear clothes in a particular way. So, this particular definition should be pretty clear, right? Let's think of a small child, right? A parent may help that child dress, right? To put on um, either a shirt, pants, socks, you name it, right? Wearing clothes in a particular way. In the month of January, I think of dress warmly, right? So I add on extra layers, especially if I'm headed outside. A second way you might hear dress used as a verb is to mean to decorate something in an artistic or attractive way. So, some people might talk about dressing their homes in a particular way or dressing a table maybe in advance of a party or rather fancy meal with friends. A third way you will hear dress used is in connection to medicine and healthcare, and that is to clean, treat, and apply a dressing to a wound. So, if you will, imagine a cut, right? The cut has to be cleaned. Maybe we put some special ointment on it, and then we bandage it. What I've just described is that act of dressing the cut or dressing the wound. You should know that dress is a regular verb. To make the progressive form, all you need to do is add ing to form dressing. The past tense and participle forms of this verb are made by adding ed. Our base verb, dress, ends in an unvoiced S sound. So our past tense ending, our ed ending, is going to make a T sound. It should sound like this: dressed, dressed. Okay. Now let's take a look at a few phrasal verbs that sort of expand the meaning of this verb. There are two phrasal verbs that we're going to discuss, and they each have some different meanings. The first that we'll look at is dress down. And one way we can use this phrasal verb is to mean to scold someone or reprimand them. So we're telling them they have done something wrong, they have been behaving in a way we don't like. Okay? An example of this: the teacher dressed down her students for being late. Right? So here she's scolding them. Maybe she's saying, "You are irresponsible. You are being rude. You're right." So she's telling them how their behavior is not appropriate or not right. A second way we can use dress down is back to our first definition regarding our clothes, and this is where we're wearing more informal or casual clothing. An example of this: at our companies, employees dress down on Fridays. Right? So, what this implies is there's a more formal dress code on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and it's become quite common in a lot of places that jeans, something that's a bit more informal, is maybe okay on Fridays. The second phrasal verb we're going to discuss is dress up. This can have a few different meanings. One way to use the phrasal verb dress up is to refer to wearing a costume. Okay? An example of this: are you dressing up for Halloween? Right? So here, again, we were asking, are you wearing a costume? Are you planning to wear a costume? A second way dress up gets used is to mean to wear formal clothes. An example here: you should dress up for your interview. So here, someone's giving you advice to wear more formal clothing for the purpose of probably making a good impression at this interview. A third way you can hear dress up used is to mean to improve the appearance of something. An example here. Will new curtains dress up this room? So here, again, we're not talking about a costume for the room or formal clothing. We want to know, is that going to make this room look nicer, look better, improve its appearance? Now let's continue using our verb of the day in a couple different verb tenses. Today we're going to practice the simple past tense and the present perfect. Let's start with the simple past tense. We use this verb tense to describe an action that was completed at some known time in the past. In the affirmative, our structure is going to be the same. We're going to have our subject, and then we're going to have that ed form of the verb. An example sentence. A nurse dressed the wound at the hospital. Now, this particular sentence doesn't have a time signal like yesterday or 2 weeks ago, but if it was part of a conversation, we might understood that, have an understanding, I should say, of that known time in the past. Now, if we want to make a negative simple past tense sentence, again, we're going to start with our subject, and then our structure is going to be did not, or the contraction didn't, and then the base verb. So again, our structure is going to be the same no matter what our subject is. Here's another example. We didn't dress up for Halloween last year. Right? So there I have a time signal telling me that this is a known point in the past. If you want to ask a yes or no question in the simple past tense, start with the past form of do, which is did. Then we're going to have our subject and then the base verb. So I always like to point out, notice I'm only using that ed form in the affirmative, not in the negative and not in my yes or no question. So an example of a yes or no question. Did you dress up for the party? Now here, without much context, we're not certain if this is a costume or formal wear. It might depend on what kind of party or what time of year that this happened, but good to know that this could have two possible meanings. Now let's take a look at the present perfect. We use this verb tense to describe an action that started in the past and continues into the present. We also use it to describe things that happened at some unknown time in the past. To make a present perfect sentence, we need to pay attention to our subject. If our subject is I, you, we, or they, we're going to use have, and then we'll use the participle form of the verb. Because dress is a regular verb, the participle is the same as the past tense. Okay? Now, if our subjects are she, he, or it, we'll use has and then the participle form of the verb. You can see that in my example. She has dressed Broadway shows and Hollywood movies for more than 20 years. I saw this sentence recently describing someone whose job it is to provide costumes for people in musicals, plays, and movies. And it was used, right? So we're noting this person has been performing this action, and it continues into the present day. If I want to make a negative present perfect sentence, again, I'm going to start with have or has, whichever form matches my subject. Then I'll use not, and then the participle form of the verb. You might hear some speakers use the contraction form, hasn't or haven't. That's fine. You can see that in my example here. Many office workers haven't dressed up since shifting to work from home. Right? So this means they're not wearing formal clothes as they continue their jobs from home, from their living rooms or kitchen tables, dining room tables, etc. Lastly, let's look at making a yes or no question in the present perfect. To do this, we're going to start with have or has, then we'll have our subject, and then the participle form of the verb. Here's another example. Has the little girl dressed up as a superhero? Right? So again, this is the meaning connected to a costume. Now, let's spend a moment looking at some words that are related to our verb dress. And the first word we're going to look at is the noun form of this word. So, same spelling, same pronunciation. One way we can use the noun dress is to refer to a one piece garment that covers the body and extends over the legs. And to help us understand this, I've got a picture here, a lovely person wearing a beautiful red dress, right? So this garment is one piece and it extends and covers her legs. A second way you might hear dress used is to refer to clothing that is of some sort of specific kind or type. An example of this might be the museum has many examples of traditional dress. We might see words sort of describing the culture to which a particular type of clothing exists. And I would imagine we would see that if we understood what kind of museum this was for, or maybe what the exhibit was showing. But they're showing traditional dress from a period of time or from a group of people. Another related word that you might see is the noun dresser. This is used to refer to a chest of drawers. I've included another picture because I think the visual helps many learners. An example of this word in a sentence, we're looking to buy a new dresser for the bedroom. A third word that you might see is the adjective dressy. This means we're describing something that is suitable for kind of a festive party like situation or some formal occasion. An example here. You should wear something dressy to the party tonight. Right? This is really just another way of telling someone they should dress up, right? Wear something more formal. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.